Hey friends, welcome back. This is Ashley and Liam from Uncommon Roots Homestead, and today I want to talk about little hands in the garden. Are you gardening with Mama? Ah! Yucky. Dirt. Can you put it back? All right. So, as you can see, I have a helper. I have a helper today in the garden, and I thought, what a better time. Nope, gentle with the plants. Thank you. What a better time than to talk about little hands in the garden and what we do to encourage them and also protect our vegetables. So, obviously, our children are young. We have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, which often means that doing things around the homestead or the farm or the garden are a little bit more difficult than maybe they were before we had children, or would have been before we had children, and more difficult than they will be as our children get older. But there's something so special about this time. No. And so one thing we practice is redirection. Let's go. Boop, boop, boop. There's something so special about this time. And we know that we'll never have these moments back where we've got little hands and little feet toddling around. But that doesn't make it easy, right? So there are some things that we do practically to garden with children. Things like redirection. That's big. It's what I just did. He was trying to top one of my tomatoes, so instead we moved to a bed that's not planted yet so that he can get his hands in the soil and not ruin my tomatoes. Obviously he doesn't understand, right? He doesn't know that that plant is a tomato plant. He doesn't know that if he rips the top off that it will not grow. Just like he doesn't know dirt is not food. Yucky. He doesn't know any of those things. And so, there are a couple of different schools of thought. Or options, I guess. We could just keep the kids out of the garden, right? And say that this is a space they're not allowed in, and kind of remove all of the temptation or all of the opportunity for ruining things. Just take it all off the table. That's one option. And honestly, a lot of the time, that is how I feel. Like, that's what I wish I could do when he's digging up my asparagus. Oh, come here, buddy. When I'm redirecting when he's taking big bites of soil, when I'm redirecting for the 100th time, often I feel like, man, it would be easier if I just did this later or kept this space separate. But I feel really strongly about creating a place in the garden for my children. And I know that can't happen unless we embrace this. We embrace the curious hands and busy feet and everything that comes with it. So one thing practically that we do is we redirect, like I said. So if they're getting into something they shouldn't, we just redirect them. That's easier, obviously. That's easier with Isla than he's got a mouthful still. That's easier with Isla than it is with Liam, because she understands. So I give her projects like asking her to help me water and filling a watering can for her, asking her to help me plant and giving her a package of seeds. Those are really practical, tangible things that we do to redirect in the garden. Now, when it comes to Liam, some of the more practical things are containing him. So putting him in a pack and play or putting him in the swing so that he can't get into anything. Following him closely when he's not in one of those things, so that as he gets close to things that maybe he shouldn't get close to, that we are redirecting and, you know, monitoring him for his safety ultimately, but also for the safety of our plants. I love that both of our children are obsessed with this space and want to be here and want to be with me. I don't want to ever change that or sacrifice that. So for me, that means figuring out how to incorporate them into the garden in ways that are more practical. One thing that we are planning on doing probably next year when Isla's 4 is giving her a garden space of her own in my garden. So giving her a bed that's hers to plant and to take care of. She's a little bit young right now, so I let her help with my things, but you know, she doesn't always want to play. So that's something that we're going to do when she's a little bit older. So if your kids are a little bit older, that might be a good option of something that could help keep them preoccupied. But those are some of the things that we do to make sure that the kids have a place in the garden. Beyond that, we do things like, you know, putting the swing in the garden so that we can set Liam in there and contain him, but also I can work in the garden. We come over as a family, but also separately so that I can get things done. Like, it's really important to not feel like I have to do everything I need to do in the garden when the family is all here, because I think that would just add a lot of anxiety and reduce a lot of the joy that I find in the garden. All that to say, as I've just handed Liam off to the second parent, the biggest piece of advice I have on kids in the garden is leverage the people around you. Having an opportunity to hand off is huge, and it makes keeping the garden open to our children feasible, honestly, because sometimes it's a lot and it's hard to chase babies and toddlers, and if you have small children, you know it's a hard season of life, but that doesn't mean that it can't also be a great opportunity to start your children young and show them the beauty of the garden and teach them how to appreciate growth and life. And that's what we want to do here. So while we're out here, there's something munching on my cabbage. I haven't noticed any cabbage worms or anything yet, but it appears I have a cabbage thief. I'll keep watching. If there's consistent damage, I'll go ahead and spray either probably neem oil, and I'll sprinkle some diatomaceous earth, things like that. My lettuce looks absolutely wonderful. Looks stunning. I'm gonna go ahead and harvest this in the morning. So I always harvest my lettuce in the morning. The reason I do that is kind of twofold. First, it's the coolest part of the day. The plants aren't using their reserve water, so it tends to be a lot more fresh and a lot more crisp. But also in the morning, because of all of that, the flavor is much sweeter as well. So I prefer that. In the colder months, it's not really as necessary because, it's not as hot. They're not using all of their reserve water. But when we get to this time of year, I tend to try to do that. It's delicious. Even in the evening, which it's evening right now, but I'm gonna cut it in the morning. Nothing better.
You're on the boat.
We're on the boat? Where are we going?
We're seeing the princesses.
You're seeing the princesses? How's that lettuce?
Look.
Good?
Yeah.
It's delicious. They're on a family trip.
Yeah.
Sailing away. Anyways, back to my original point. All of that to say, the reason that I want to cultivate a space in the garden and on the farm for our children is that it's not as much about quality time or interest or creativity, though it is all of those things, right? I want all of those things and I get all of those things from exposing my children to the garden. But for me, it's more about instilling early the value of sustainable living and understanding where your food comes from and understanding that, you know, I want my kids to know that their mom spent time in the garden, cultivating the earth, protecting the earth, giving back to the earth, and ultimately was able to sustain them through that. And I hope that that's something that they see as they grow and that they learn from and that they become passionate about too, because, you know, we need generations of people that want to step forward and want to be an advocate for sustainable living and being able to provide for yourself in terms of food, growing your own food, appreciating where your food has come from, even if you can't or don't want to grow your own food. Like, do they appreciate what goes into that container of lettuce that's being purchased at the store? Do they understand what the seed looked like that grew that? Do they value those things, and do they have an appreciation for their local farmers and the people that are working so fervently to protect the quality and the authenticity of their food? And those are the things that are important to me, and ultimately those are the kind of values that I want to instill in them so that as they grow, they can be the change that we want, that they can be voices in this fight for food. And that's why we do this, right? It's not a game. It's not just for fun. It's not just because I enjoy it, though I do, right? I do enjoy it. I do think it's fun. I do value this time. But ultimately, I know that I'm investing in their future. And that's why I invite them into my garden. That's why I invite them into that space. I want this place, our farm, to be a place that cultivates young minds and opens them up to something more. And that's ultimately my goal as a parent, right? Like that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. So I want to encourage you today, whether you have young children in your life, yours or not, invite them into the spaces that matter to you. Invite them into the places that seem difficult to you. Teach them to value the things that you value and find joy and hope in. Because at the end of the day, that's the most valuable thing we can do to the little minds around us, is instill in them hope for a future. And for me, today, that starts in the garden. No matter how hard it is. Even if it means getting 1/10 of the things done that I wanted to get done. It's valuable work. And it's necessary work. And it's rewarding. We're all in this together. We're all in this together.
Or
Good job.
I thought this one was gonna be a tomato.
I think that's a weed, my love.
No, there's a flower in it. I need to get back to work.
Oh, I think you missed the little guy.
What?
The little tomato.
Oh.
Good job.
Cheese!
What do you think about
Hey,
the...
look! Yay!
Hey, what do you think about the garden, Isla? Isla, what do you think about the garden? Come tell me.
It's great!
What's great?
The garden is beautiful.
The garden is beautiful.
And do you like eating? Do you like eating, Mom?
I do like eating.
And what do you like to eat most than
Hmm.
pizza?
Oh, I do like pizza.
And
I
what-
like growing my food. Do you like growing your food?
No, my friend cat likes to eat her food.
Your cat likes to eat his food? That's clear.
But here, my cat rears these and then ties it up.
All that to say,
So, bye.
even while Liam is losing his mind in the car ready to go, and Isla is on to the next bigger, better thing, creating a space in the garden for the kids is valuable, and it's a sacrifice, an investment that we choose to make for them in their future. So I hope you find that encouraging. If you think it's hard or sometimes impossible, we do too. But you can do hard things. Thanks for joining me in the garden today. There's always a space for you. Till next time.